I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the same. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. I'm going to introduce today's guest in a second, Owen of SweetProcess. Before I do, I always like to, Owen, point out other episodes. You have an amazing podcast, right? The Process Breakdown podcast. I always tell people on that podcast to check out, there's a Michael Gerber interview, there's a David Allen interview, there's Cameron Herold interview. There's so many good interviews. I had Cameron Herold. That's another, a good one on mine as well. And, he has the COO Alliance. So check it out. He has some amazing books that he has written, and check those out and many more on InspiredInsider.com. Before I introduce Owen, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. People say, Owen, what do you do? Rise 25. Well, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships. And we do that by helping you run your podcast. As you know, Owen, we've known each other for many years. The number one thing in my life is relationships. I am always looking at a way to give to my best relationships. Over the past decade, I've seen no better way to do that than have them on my podcast, profile what they're working on, talk about the things I admire about them and that other people should too, and, shout what they have from the rooftops. And so, yeah, and that I love, I've been saying this for years and years and years. I think everyone, if you have a business, you should have a podcast, period. So if you have questions about it, you can go to rise25.com. I have said this over and over, Owen. So here's how I introduce SweetProcess to people. Okay. I say, have you had team members ask you the same questions over and over again? And you may have spent 10 times explaining it and you want to slam your head against a wall, potentially. Well, guess what, Owen? There's a better way, okay? There's a solution.
Weird. I'm on the other side now listening to you introducing our software.
Exactly. There's a solution. There's a solution. It's called SweetProcess. I don't know if you've heard of it, okay? SweetProcess is actually a software that makes it drop dead easy to train and onboard new staff and save time with existing staff. I've talked to many people who actually use SweetProcess, Owen, and you know this, that they're like, they say, it makes it so easy for me to train people. Before it took, months. Now I basically send them an email and it walks it through the whole process. I can onboard new staff. It holds people accountable to doing things right. Yeah. Not only do universities, banks, and hospitals and software companies use you, but first responder government agencies use you in life or death situation. I've talked to some of these government agencies before, and they had some amazing stories to tell. So if I was talking to someone earlier today, and my friend, Dr. Scott Gray. Hey, shout out to Dr. Scott Gray. He was like, Jeremy, I feel like we could be more organized. I'm like, have you heard of SweetProcess? SweetProcess can document all the repetitive tasks that eat up your precious time so you focus on growing your team. And they do have a free trial. You can test it out. Listen, their software, for the amount of time it saves and energy it saves, is inexpensive. Okay? Inexpensive. But you can get a free trial. You can test it out. 14-day free trial. No credit card was required. You can go to sweetprocess.com. Sweet like candy, SWEET process.com. Owen, thanks for joining me.
I'm glad to be here.
So I want to talk about the journey of starting SweetProcess. I really want to start there. And we have kind of this overlap of worlds in this journey. So talk about starting SweetProcess.
So to get some real context as to how we even started SweetProcess, I'll go a couple of years back before SweetProcess. I used to run so some people call it an outsourcing firm where, I would provide entrepreneurs here in the US with, staff who would, do their back office work, and this was like in the heyday of after people just read the 4-hour work week. So immediately they would just think, they'll, find somebody abroad and the person would just get started doing their work and everything just goes like magic. And, but the reality, as, you and I both know, is that it doesn't work like that. There is some form of onboarding that needs to be, to happen, whether the person is being hired here in the States or even abroad. You have to have some form of documentation of how work is done so that, they can hit the ground running. And back then, there were no tools. SweetProcess was not even in existence. There were enterprise level tools out there that, I tried to work with my agency to try to, document how work was done at the, say we have a new client. Before we onboard them as a client, we have to document how they do their work so that my team could take over their work and do it, properly for them. There was a lot of enterprise.
Like every project is unique. I mean, that's a tough nut to crack because you have so many staff that are all doing different projects. It's not like you're in a company. I mean, you could streamline. You need like the ultimate streamline in that situation.
And the problem was the tools were, at an enterprise level and hard to use. And so even the person who you're trying to get to do the work can't even figure out how to use the tool because it's just complicated. Or I was, hacking together a bunch of different tools together that were not even built for the purpose. And in my mind, I was like, there has to be an easy way to do this stuff. And so lo and behold, while still promoting the business and trying to, getting more customers and all that, I think Andrew Warner of Mixergy, obviously, Andrew Warner, invited me to come on there to do a, not an actual interview, but an actual course, because he has two versions.
A master class.
Yeah, master class. And so,
I still think, Owen, we came up with the term, Andrew and I came up with the term master class before. Now there's masterclass.com. Remember, I mean, we were calling it master classes. You know that.
Yeah.
Like whatever it was, 8 years ago.
Yeah, and now it's a whole thing. And so I went, and basically the master class or the course is basically you come on there, and it's not necessarily you talking about your history or your journey as an entrepreneur, but you're coming to take
you're teaching
a specific topic and going deep into it. And so I was brought on there to talk about how entrepreneurs can systematize their operations and how to do that by documenting how work is done, so that by the time you hand over work to somebody, the person knows the way the work should be done. And so that's what I went on there, nervous as heck, going on the interview like, this is Andrew Warner.
Were you listening to the podcast at the time?
Oh yeah, I don't think I've missed any episode of Andrew Warner's.
Wow,
I've listened
to
amazing all of them from the very beginning. But anyways, so I was there nervous as heck, but I did what I had to do, and lo and behold, my co-founder now at SweetProcess, Jervis, reached out to me and was like, he has this idea that he's thinking of working on, and essentially it's in line with helping entrepreneurs and companies find an easy way to document how work is done. And he liked what I was talking about on the.
So he heard you on Mixergy.
Yeah, he heard me on the Mixergy course. He reached out.
Does Andrew know that you guys met each other?
I think he knows, but I mean, I don't usually make it a thing other than when people ask me. But that's how we met. And so he reached out to me, and then I, had a conversation with him, and I was like, dude, instead of just asking me for advice on how to build this stuff, this is something that I know, based on what I'm doing, that it's a necessary thing. Why don't we just build it together? And so lo and behold, we just went ahead to build SweetProcess together. And this was the fourth quarter of 2013. And so before we went ahead to start, he's the CTO. Before I started writing any code or anything, I said, let us go ahead and, talk to customers, potential customers, to see, what exactly are the problems they have when it comes to employees not having the information handy in front of them of how work is done. What tools have they used before, and what challenges they ran into with tools, because we didn't want to just go and start writing code, even though I had this, deep experience seeing the problem myself firsthand. But I felt like, it's better to, get other people interviewed just to see what people are saying. Then we can come together with all the different problems we see around this topic and figure out, okay, where are we going to focus and build the software, and so that we can make it easy and intuitive to use, because that's one of the issues we had. I had was all these other enterprise tools were crazy and hard to use, and so we did that for like maybe a month to about 45 days of just making calls. I remember I was on calls with different people, say, hey, I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I'm just, based on your type of company, I feel like, this will be something that you have a need for, but, tell me what kind of problems you have with regards to, employees not knowing what they need to do and how you're solving that. And that kind of conversation, trying to understand the pain. And I gathered all that information back, recorded some of the conversations, shared the summaries of all the calls with Jervis. And then we decided, okay, this is what our software needs to do. This is how we can make it easy, how we can make it intuitive. And from there we launched, and the rest is history. And I mean, you're on our website, right? This is awesome. I can see the screenshot of, so you can click on the happy customers. We have tons of videos on there showing different customers from different industries using our software. And you actually the one that handles the case studies, so you know about this. We have a lot of case studies, interviews with entrepreneurs, all the way from
there's some amazing stories here,
to lawyers, to I mean, it runs the gamut, because the problem of making employees know how work is done, it's industry agnostic, meaning that every industry. I mean, we even have churches using our software because they want to make sure that volunteers do work, serve their congregation the way it should be served. So when you need to outline how the experience of the work should be done, SweetProcess is the answer. So that's a quick history of how we got started.
It's amazing, right? And so I pulled up the mixer. Here it is. Here's your outsourcing effectively.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Course. Look at this. You see that?
That's the history right there. And look at my old school picture.
You haven't changed.
Oh,
you haven't really changed. You just have glasses now.
Oh, I've been using glasses even back then. I just took off my glasses and took a picture for that.
What it gives me an idea for you, actually. Every time I talk to you, I feel like I get a new idea, by the way, for you, which is like, there should be a course on your page. There should be an actual course on your page. Like, from this, we're going to produce a course for you, and an outsourcing effectively course, right? Why not? That would be great. People can sign up. They can get that. Founders and CEOs and all of them will like that. And obviously they could check out Mixergy as well. I have
and something too, is that like, even when, based on my own, and this is the importance of actually interviewing potential customers, based on my own experience, I thought that the people that would need this software were people who were trying to outsource stuff, because that was the industry I was in. But to be honest, we don't even have that many people who are using our software to outsource anything. It's more of an internal thing. Companies with more than 20 employees, all the way to 1,000 employees, using the software internally.
We're gonna change it. It's called Insource effectively. That's the name of the course.
Okay.
Because everyone talks about outsourcing, let's talk about insourcing. Right? I don't know. That's my idea. You'll see, if you're listening to this episode, maybe one day you'll get a course. Maybe we'll give you a discount code. Who knows?
This is live
for insourcing effectively. I don't know. You should coin that term. We just coined it right here. Did anyone talk about insourcing?
I think insourcing is actually a word.
Is it? I'm sure it is. It's like entrepreneur and intrapreneur, right? I thought we just created something new on the fly. But that's really cool. I love it. And so, one of the things that the feedback when I talk to your customers or people who use you, what sticks out besides the easiness is the responsiveness. People who want new features, or they want somebody to do something, like I just message them, and it doesn't happen all the time, but they were very responsive. They actually incorporated my changes into future updates. I'm wondering, what's your process look like for how do you decide what features you're going to work on? Because there's a lot of things you have to work on. And how do you get that done?
I have to thank Jervis, because I've learned a lot of things from, how to build software from my co-founder Jervis. And his whole thing is all about version 1.0. How simple can we be that, we have this vision of what we're trying to be. We're like miles ahead. What SweetProcess we want to be with SweetProcess, the vision is way over there, but like we're going to get there eventually. But for this feature, what's the simplest version that we can release that gets the customer solving the problem, the root problem that they're actually trying to solve? And so from there is where we, determine what that, minimum viable version of the feature will be. And then we begin to iterate and improve based on feedback we get from them. And that's why we're so eager to get our customers talking to us, because when you do it this way, you don't just rush into building this bloated feature, software and this feature that nobody can even use, or you the one who run the company can even explain it because it's so difficult to use. But when you go to this route where you go with the most skeleton, easy version, intuitive starting point, then you allow your customers, based on their feedback, to help you improve it. And it gets to a point where you just keep that simplicity, but with constant improvement, it gets better and better and better. You know what I'm saying?
I want to talk about the evolution
Mm-hmm.
of SweetProcess, because you talk to customers. I think there's no better thing to do in a business actually is to talk to customers and find out and get feedback, what they like, what they don't like. What are talk about some of the major features you implemented in SweetProcess because of the feedback?
So features we implemented because of, it's like we keep creating features every day and improving it. So it's like it keeps pumping out. But feedback, let's see, I'm putting him on the spot here.
Were there any big, like, I'm just curious,
so
like any
for instance,
big,
I wouldn't say this is more of a feature that feedback, but like, for instance, single sign-on is something where a lot of these other companies, they try to make it look like, just to use single sign-on to log into the software, you got to pay us this other special price, and they make it look like it's enterprise something that just to have it in their website. But we take the belief that, the single sign-on is just to have an easier way for people to log into the software that you control, and you can provision access and all that for using that same single sign-on vendor for different software. Why should you pay extra just to use our software? It's like saying pay extra for a key to get into this software, whereas what's the value of what you're trying to do in the software is different. So, but that came from the fact that these larger companies were asking us for single sign-on and all that, but we said, okay, we can go ahead and do what everybody in the industry is doing and try to have different shared pricing and say putting this on the higher price. But we said, nah, that's not the core of what the feature of the problem we're solving. And so we decided our pricing should be such that everybody has access to the software, all the features for the same price, and we want to charge you based on who's actually using the software. So obviously there's a base price where for up to 20 employees, there's that base price. So if one employee is using the software, you pay that base price. If 20 employees are using the software, you still pay that base price.
Which is amazing. I just have to point out, because I'm not going to name the software. We were like trialing. This has nothing to do with processes. It's different software. And it says your free trial, when it's up, you'll be charged $250 per month per user. And I was like, regardless of whether I only invited 2 of other team members, but like we will start getting docked $750 a month, like with 3 people using it. So there's not many software companies that are doing this where it's like, cool, $99. It's for up to 20 members.
So, and once you get more than 20 employees, now with the competition, they say, okay, per user, there's a fee that you charge you, whether they use the software or not. We say, no, we're always trying to do things differently. We say, okay, we're going to literally look at the usage of each person you add into the software besides the initial 20 that comes with the package. And if they use the software, that's when we charge you the additional fee. And our customers love that, because it's like, imagine you're the operations director of a large firm and you're trying to, totally onboard everybody. And then now you think, I'm going to be stuck with a huge bill. And they've not even started using the software. With every new software that you're incorporating into a company, there's that period of, learning the software, onboarding, and getting people to change their ways internally. But now with this kind of pricing, you don't have to worry about that. You can add all the people in the software that you need to add, and know that, you're only going to get charged based on people using it. So we always look at—
That's pretty amazing. I'm curious on how do you choose 20 as opposed to 10? As opposed to 21. I mean, I could see—
that's a great question.
Even with 10, I could see it being
so
really
I can tell you the
reasonable.
answer to that, because we actually know the reason why we chose that. So this wasn't the pricing we started initially. So over the years, we've been increasing the pricing to a certain point. But what we came across was that there's a certain threshold in which a company, in terms of the size of the company, that they stay our customer for 24 months or more, and they like use the software gangbusters and keep sending us feedback like crazy on things to change. And it turns out that once we have 20 people using the software, right? So we say, okay, if that's the case, why don't just price the software so that if you come to us and you are 20 employees or more, you see that's what we're going after, you go ahead and sign up. So that's why we price it like that. It's based on actual data.
Yeah.
But also we also give people who have less than 20 employees a chance to reach out and see, because we have a special pricing for them. They reach out to see if it's a good fit. They can go on with this pricing for the smaller teams. So our focus is that 20 employees or more. And also, like, I've talked to customers with lesser number of employees, like say 10 employees or less, and when they cancel for whatever reason, it's not because of the software itself, because software is always going to be easy to use, but it's more about the stage in which their company really is in. Because at that stage where they have 5 employees or less, they're wearing multiple hats, and their real issue at that point is trying to drive more business, get more customers in so they can drive more business. They're not really thinking.
But my argument, Owen, I'm going to argue for SweetProcess for a second, but my argument is well, then they need a process for selling. I mean, they need a process for, getting more customers as well.
So there's an argument for that, but when you're trying to figure out how to keep the lights on, you're not thinking about the process for something else that has nothing to do with your core focus at that point, which is I've got to keep the lights on as a small company. I got to get more business in. So their whole focus at that point is driving more business. Now, on the other hand, by the time you've hired 20 people, I can wager to say that you've already figured out that engine for driving business, right? And driving new customers and stuff like that. At this point now, your whole issue is, well, we want to make sure that we're delivering the results or whatever we promise to our customers, right? Be it services or products. We want to make sure we're delivering it at a level that we determine what we want it to be, and our employees are doing it all the time. And so at that point, scale and operations is an issue for you, right? And so because at this level where you have 20 or more employees, operations and scale is an issue for you, a software like SweetProcess, which this is our focus, becomes a thing where it makes sense for them. So we say, you know what, price for the people you're trying to target, price for the people that over the years stay longer with you. And if anybody else want to come in knowing the price, well, we can have them in as well.
I mean, I could see even for 10 people or 5 people, that's still really an amazing price point, right? So that's why I was curious. I'm like, I could see them go for up to 10 and plus $5 a month for additional users, and that still would be totally reasonable with what we see out there and how software companies charge. The other thing I want to talk about is, how do people use this with like in Asana or a ClickUp? How do they use SweetProcess along with their project management?
Okay, so basically the whole first part of the problem we're solving is saying, okay, how is work done? I want to make sure that you can document procedures, processes, policies for how work is done in your company, and you can collaborate together to build those documents. But now on the other end of this whole thing is, okay, let's get work done, right? So you can document a procedure for how to take orders over the phone, but now let's say customer John calls and you're taking an order for John. So that's tasks. So with SweetProcess, we combine that whole thing with the documentation of procedures and processes, with you being able to work on tasks and assign tasks to your employees, to your teams or your roles within your company, and people can get work done. But now the thing is, they can never say, I don't know how the work is done, because in order for you to assign a task to anybody in SweetProcess, it needs to be based on a underlying procedure or underlying process that you have documented, because it's right there in front of them. Step one, you do this. As you're doing the thing and you're actually carrying out the task, you're seeing the instructions for it right there. You're checking it off. Now, obviously, there are people that would want to be able to use a different task management tool to get work done. Well, so be it. We have a means for them to integrate with whatever tools they want to integrate with via our API. Or if they want to, if they're technical, they use our API with the API or the other software. But if they're not technical, they could use a third-party tool like Zapier. And Zapier is like a tool that has a bunch of different softwares connecting together, and you can use that connection, right? And so if you don't want to use a tool like SweetProcess to manage both the documentation and the tasks getting work done, then you can integrate us with other tools. But yes, the thing why I always make the argument for keeping everything in the same place, because okay, you spend all that time doing that continuous improvement and documenting how work is done, But there's also this other part where insight is gained is when the work is being done. You find, oh, we documented that it should be done like this, but this doesn't make sense. There's something wrong with our process right now, and we need to change that. Now, if you're using a different software for the actual kind of work or getting work done, now you are depending on this employee being so proactive and all that to remember. I mean, they're busy employees and all that to leave that place where they're doing the work and come back into this other tool where you're documenting how work is done to let the manager know and whatever. Obviously, there will be a certain percentage of people that will do that, but to be honest, the bulk of them would not. And so you lose all the insight, right? Because they are separate tools. So by having them both together while the work is being done, if there's any issue that needs to be solved or whatever, or anything that needs to be improved, the employee, if it's proactive, they can go ahead and even improve the underlying procedure or process or that was documented, and in real time, that task they are working on gets those additional steps that was improved and stuff like that. So that's why I always encourage people to do everything in one software so that information flow back and forth is much easier. But if you have to use a separate task management tool, for instance, then make sure that you have that integration between SweetProcess and that other tool.
Yeah, I've heard, the reason is I've heard people use SweetProcess a lot with maybe they like assigning certain, like they just maybe use Asana or Trello or something, and then they use it as a way to go, hey, here's when you check this off, but actually here's how to do that. And they just have like literally a SweetProcess in that task for them to check off. But if someone doesn't know how to do that, they can just open up the process right there. What are some of the common integrations you see, or popular integrations with SweetProcess?
So we have the API. You can integrate it with most software if you're technical, but if you're not, you can use Zapier, like I mentioned, and Zapier has like tons of.
I'm just
software.
Curious, what do people use it with? Like,
so I'll give you an example of one that people have told me they've done, which is actually interesting. It's like a sales call. Not a sales call, but like someone fills out a form on their website, and so I guess that triggers some lead in their CRM. And in this case, I use an example like Salesforce CRM, and now that form is only used for a specific purpose. So maybe it's like a new lead or a new sales lead or whatever for whatever product, right? And now that, because there's integration between the CRM and SweetProcess, that triggers a task based on an underlying sales process of what the salesperson has to do every time a new lead comes in. And so the salesperson is in SweetProcess, going through the steps, doing all that stuff. And because they've tied SweetProcess with the CRM, all the steps and all the information they're doing, entering into the SweetProcess is also at the same time being entered into the CRM. So on the sales side, all that information for what all the tasks they have been carrying out for executing the sales is right there. So like that's just an example of how you can do stuff with tasks like
it's interesting. I love hearing how people do this stuff because they have figured out sophisticated ways to actually run their business efficiently.
And the thing is, what you will find is that in a company's day-to-day, more than 80% of the work is repetitive and is the same. And that is where SweetProcess comes in, because when you have a repetitive structure of what each of the different tasks is, how they are done, then you need a tool like SweetProcess to document those stuff. So you have it, and employees can always have it handy. And then there will be that small percent where it's like new stuff, new ideas that you don't even know how it's going to be done. So that's kind of more. I think that's more of a project where you can use a project management tool and go and figure it out there. But once there's a process behind it and there's a repetitive structure around it, and you need a tool like SweetProcess, which is a business process management tool to go and have your business processes in there.
So Owen, what are some of your favorite software outside of SweetProcess? What are some?
I love Calendly.
I know you do. Seriously, I've been avoiding setting up a calendar system for 6 years, and then Owen is basically the one that forced me to do it, which is the best thing I ever did. So anyways, I love Calendly too.
Yeah.
What else?
The back and forth solves that problem. And actually, one of my favorite CRM, to be honest, is actually HubSpot CRM. I mean, no offense to the Salesforce lovers out there, but I cannot wrap my mind around that software. People love it. People, go crazy about it, but I love simplicity. so HubSpot is one of them for
Mm.
me. And you keep wondering like, how am I always on top of stuff when the things we do together? Well, I'm using, stuff like CRMs, HubSpot to manage all that stuff, and which other tools?
Yeah.
I mean, Stripe. It's not you wouldn't really say Stripe is a tool, but it's more about making sure that the bills get paid, right?
What
and your
about for a
customers.
SaaS company? Do you recommend any? There's a lot out there that integrate with Stripe to have recurring billing for a SaaS company. Are there any ones you've seen that you've liked out there?
So we use Stripe for the entire thing.
You do?
Yes. I mean, Stripe. I mean, to be
Well,
honest.
you also have developers. Probably. You probably have custom stuff going on.
That's what I was about to say. You read my mind. It's like Stripe. They're doing a good job of every day trying to make it simple, right? But the beauty about Stripe is that they have a great API that is easy and for these developers to do really creative things with. But now if you're not so savvy and you wanted some easy way to create like a subscription or whatever, there's always like Recurly is a good one that you can use to create subscription, and you don't even need to be technical.
You probably have coded a Recurly on your back end. I mean, you probably have fully coded these things because that's what you use. And we
used to be with Recurly for years, and then eventually we liked it, but Stripe just made better sense for us from a flexibility standpoint and all that. We moved. Yeah.
Any other favorite softwares? Because you're a very productive, efficient guy, so I'm sure I wanted to hear your favorites.
Productive, efficient. That's a stretch. Is it possible that we created this software because I'm not so productive? Okay. Yeah. So, well, I'm trying to figure out things I use every day. I mean, this is not necessarily software, but I'm on LinkedIn every day. LinkedIn is like my Facebook. So I'm on LinkedIn every day, for making connection to would-be customers and partners and all that stuff. So I'm just looking at what do I do every day, and these are things that come to mind. Yeah.
Last question.
Oh, one I forgot.
Go ahead.
Zoom. I forgot Zoom. Yeah, so makes it easy. I remember the days when I used to just go to a meeting and just to get some. I mean, I'm not trying to knock on any software, but the reality was that we moved over to Zoom.
It's so easy.
Yeah, simplicity.
Yeah. I mean, I used
Slack. We forgot Slack. My team, we couldn't be on doing anything without Slack, so we're always on Slack, slacking it up. Yeah. So these are the things I use every day. They come to mind. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. I have one last question before I ask it. I do want to point people towards SweetProcess. You could check it out. Like I said, SWEETprocess.com. If you really want to document, get things off your plate, get things off your staff's plate, and actually just document it so that the onboarding and everything gets done right. Check it out. There's many tens of thousands of companies using SweetProcess, and it will make your life better and easier.
So you were saying during the pre-interview, you're going to ask me the history of why. That's that question.
My last question is, coming to the U.S. and life. What was life like? Because you grew up in Nigeria.
Yeah, so I grew up in a village with lions chasing me. Before we hit a lion, except in the zoo, man.
Before we hit record, I was like, what was life like in Nigeria? Because people have this, they have this stereotype in their brain of what life was like in Nigeria. And you were talking about what some people have asked you about, which is
no water. We can't, eat. Not that's a craziness. Nah, I mean, that's a whole different topic. But I just want it was funny when you asked me that question. So yeah. Oh boy.
So what was life like in Nigeria?
Yeah. So I mean, life was.
Do you still have family there?
Oh yeah, I mean,
you do.
I mean, most Nigerians, you have family, and you have that strong connection that even though you're not even in Nigeria, you're still in Nigeria because it doesn't leave you, because that's how strong the connection is. And the beauty about the whole thing is it takes the family structure of raising you. I mean, like I am where I am today because of all the different inputs, and no matter how little it is, of all the different people, family members and even non-family members have put in my life to get where I am right now. So we have that structure, that strong family bond in Nigeria. Even your neighbors just catch you doing something wrong, go snitch on you, and
they're all like
and tell
family.
your parents. So that's how we live. The way. But growing up, my dad was an entrepreneur himself, right? And so my mom, to an extent, was an entrepreneur, and also she had, working as a teacher as well. But a lot of the work ethic that I have today was from learning from, both of them, impacting on me on, how, you don't get to anywhere you want to get to in life without putting the effort into achieving it. And my dad would tell me how lucky I was growing up, because he came, maybe some of the stories a little bit embellished, but he came from a much poorer background than me. And he would say, okay, when I was growing up, I would have to walk miles to go fetch water and stuff like, but like I'm saying, some of the stories might be embellished, but the whole goal is to let you understand that you don't take for granted where you are right now, know where you came from, so that, you keep that journey to get to the next level. And, the whole thing is try to carry as many of people as with you, so that the next level you go, we're going with you, and, stay grounded. It's basically, but my dad was an entrepreneur, and my mom as well. And, that whole love and caring and strong bond, that is from my mom, the strong foundation of, it's all about the family. So, yeah, I mean, that's the way life was. And eventually graduated high school, college, and decided that, I had to make the decision. My mom was like, you're coming to the US to study. And, came here. This was 2002. And, eventually came here, started studying computer science. And after, I met my wife in college. And so, hey, at that point, I got stuck.
You're stuck. You're here.
Yeah, so which is a good thing. So like I said, the even though I'm not back home, home is always connected with me and to me. So yeah.
Yeah. Owen, I want to be the first one to thank you. I love that you tell this story, and everyone should check out sweetprocess.com. Thanks so much, everyone.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like $100 grand.